What would you do if someone torched your family's legacy? 25 years of blood, sweat, and oak, because they couldn't stand the color of your skin. What if that someone was a self-crowned HOA queen who thought she could bully her way onto your land, erase your roots, and turn it into her personal spa retreat? And what if you were the sheriff, watching her dig her own grave, one smug step at a time? Buckle up, because this is the wild ride of how I took down the ultimate Karen. And trust me, you won't see the ending coming. If you love a good story of justice, revenge, and a little manure-fueled chaos, hit that like button right now. It helps me out big time. And smash subscribe so you don't miss the next insane tale. Alright, let's dive in. Here's how it all started. There I was, standing at the edge of my meadow, the sweet scent of wildflowers mingling with the faint tang of gasoline from my old pickup parked nearby. Across the field, Linda Grayson's $200,000 wedding tent fluttered like a tacky shrine to excess. Her guests, decked in pressed khakis, loafers, and pastel sundresses, trampled my flower beds, crushing petals underfoot without a second thought. The DJ's bass thumped hard, scattering the deer I'd been feeding corn to for years, while rented white chairs sprouted across my land like weeds in some bridal magazine fever dream. Then her event planner, a wiry guy with a clipboard and a smirk, swaggered over and had the nerve to say, "Can you move that truck? It's throwing off the ambience." That's when I'd had it. I strode to my shed, flipped the switch, and unleashed the fertilizer sprayers, blasting the scene with a glorious, stinking mess. Phones flashed, screams pierced the air, and the chaos went viral. But hold up, let's rewind. I'm Marcus Jackson, sheriff of a quiet county nestled in Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a place of rolling green hills, twisting dirt roads, and folks who wave from their porches, even if they're cursing you under their breath. I'm a black man, born here, roots deep as the oak trees. After 15 years in the Army, I came back to tend to Pops when his heart gave out. He passed last fall, leaving me this land and the cabin he built plank by plank over 25 years. It's not just a house. It's his soul, carved into oak and cedar, where his old rocking chair still creaks on the porch. We'd sit there, coffee steaming, listening to the pines hum. To me, it's sacred ground. Enter Linda Grayson, self-crowned president of Pinewood Estates HOA, a glossy subdivision half a mile down the road. She's a bleach-blonde divorcee with a grudge, always in pastel cardigans, driving a Lexus she'd never let graze a mud puddle. I'd barely noticed her until she decided my cabin, and me, didn't fit her pristine vision. My place sits 10 feet outside her HOA's fake boundary, but that didn't matter. It wasn't just the cabin she despised, it was a black man owning it. I'd caught the mutters at the feed store. Property values tank with people like him around. Her tight smiles said it louder than words. It started small, a nagging itch. One crisp October morning, I was up on the roof, nailing down shingles, when her heels crunched gravel below. I peered down. There she was, Linda, clipboard gripped like a battle axe, standing on my driveway like she'd bought it. "Hi, Marcus," she chirped, voice syrupy with fake charm. "I'm Linda Grayson, Pinewood Estates HOA president. We've had complaints about your dwelling." She wrinkled her nose. "I didn't expect someone like you to own this much land. The peeling paint, that firewood pile, it's not our aesthetic. People like us deserve better. I knew someone like you meant my skin, not my address." I'd faced her kind my whole life. Folks who see a black man with land as a glitch to fix. I set my hammer down, wiped sweat off my brow, and stared. "This ain't your land, Linda. Never has been." She shoved a packet at me. HOA Rules, Section 12, Exterior Maintenance, Color Codes. I let it drop into the dirt. "Not my circus, not my monkeys," I said. She huffed, spun on her heel, and stormed off. I thought she'd quit. I was dead wrong. Linda didn't slink off. She came back swinging, a hornet I'd swatted that buzzed louder than ever. A week after her clipboard stunt, I woke to signs staked along my driveway. "Private HOA access only." Slick, laminated, nailed into my oaks with her Pinewood pine tree logo. One blocked the trail I hiked with my mutt, Bo, every Sunday. Another covered half the faded sign Pops carved decades ago. Jackson Retreat. Felt like a spit in his face and mine. I ripped them down, piled them in my fire pit, and watched flames devour her garbage. Next morning, they were back, pristine, like she'd spent all night at Kinko's. Then came the fines, crisp envelopes with her HOA letterhead hitting my mailbox like junk mail from hell. Violation. Unapproved structure. My cabin. A supposed blight. Violation. Excessive noise. Me mowing my grass. Violation. Unsightly vehicle presence. My Ford truck, which she'd sneered at in town, muttering about certain types not fitting in. I'm not in her HOA, never signed a damn thing, but she didn't care. My black skin was her green light to metal, like I was squatting on my own deed. I stashed the fines in a drawer, figuring she'd tire out. Nope, it got uglier. One night, after a brutal shift busting a meth lab out by the county line, I pulled up to a dark cabin. No fridge hum, no porch light, no storm, no outage, just nothing. The power company lady sighed. Report says it's vacant, unsafe. Immediate disconnect. Took 2 days, deeds, and a call to my deputy pal to fix it. I knew it was Linda, her stench was all over it. Juan pulled me aside at the gas station, voice low. She's done this before, man. Hit me with fines too. She didn't just want my cabin gone. She wanted me, a black man who wouldn't kneel, wiped off her map. I don't swing wild, I wait. I started logging it all. Signed photos, fine copies, timestamps. Neighbors dished more. She'd find Miss Ellie, a 70-year-old widow, for her tacky rose bushes. Threatened Juan over his work van. Standards, she'd say. But with me, it was my skin she couldn't stand. Then one morning, tire tracks snaked behind my shed to a pile of junk in my creek. Shingles, paint cans, drywall scraps. I hauled it out, filed a report, and nailed up my sign, private property, trespassers prosecuted. Next day, it was gone, swapped for her masterpiece. Future Pinewood Estates Eco Reserve, HOA sponsored. She wasn't just poking me. She was plotting a land grab, dreaming of my meadow as her wine and yoga playground. My black-owned legacy? A roadblock. The breaking point hit when her cousin's wedding crew rolled in. Trucks, caterers, florists, claiming my field for their rustic bash. County approved. She lied, no permission asked. They flattened my wildflowers, rolled out carpets, set up chairs like it was theirs. The planner strutted up, nose high. Move that truck. It's ruining the shot. I didn't yell. I smiled, walked to my shed, and fired up the sprayers. Linda's scream cut through the chaos, cake dripping from her cardigan as she slipped in the muck. The real fireworks were still coming. The wedding tent disaster was still blowing up online. Folks howling at Linda's guests scrambling from my fertilizer blitz, when my radio crackled mid-shift, cutting through the hum of my cruiser. Sheriff, fire reported near your place. My gut twisted like a wrung-out rag. I slammed the siren on, tires screeching down the winding roads, smoke clawing at the horizon before I even hit the ridge. When I pulled up, Pop's cabin, 25 years of his sweat-stained hands shaping every beam, was a smoldering ruin. The porch had collapsed into a heap of ash. The roof was a ghost, and the chimney jutted up like a gravestone in the haze. The deer antlers we'd mounted together, me a scrawny kid grinning at his side after my first hunt, were nothing but dust swirling in the wind. Firefighters swarmed the edges, hoses hissing, battling to keep the blaze from eating the pines. I stood there, boots fused to the dirt, fists clenched till my knuckles ached. I wanted to howl, to tear the sky down, but I'd learned long ago rage don't rebuild what's lost. I'd need more than that to fight this. Chief Daniels, a gray-haired vet who'd swapped fishing tails with Pops over cheap beer, trudged over, helmet dangling, face carved with grief. Found something? He said, voice low, nodding toward the brush near the foundation. A red gas can, half buried under leaves, glinting like a guilty secret. And this. He led me behind the shed, boot prints in the mud, small, tactical tread, fresh as the dew. I'd seen those boots 2 days back at the hardware store, Linda preening in her rugged chic, tactical gear, waving them at the cashier like they were high fashion, calling them statement pieces. Now they stamped the ground where my legacy died. No accident, this was her. I don't leap blind, I build slow and sure. After her power cut stunt, I'd rigged wildlife cams around the property, discreet, motion-triggered, cloud-synced. Fire can't touch the cloud. Back at the station, I ripped my laptop open, scrolled past hours of deer and swaying branches until she flickered onto the screen. Linda Grayson, HOA tyrant, skulking around my cabin at dusk in her camo outfit, gask and swinging in her grip. She darted glances over her shoulder twice, then sloshed the liquid along the base. She flicked the lighter with a wild grin, the flame dancing in her eyes as it caught, a spark of manic glee. The fire roared to life. She watched it spread for a heartbeat, smirked like she'd won, then bolted. No mask, no shame, just her smug face glowing in the blaze she'd birthed. She torched Pop's soul because a black man owning it didn't fit her Pinewood paradise. I froze her grin on the screen, my jaw tight enough to crack teeth. I could have kicked her door down right then, cuffed her in front of her HOA drones. But that's not my play. She'd been hounding me for months. Fines, signs, trash dumps, power cuts. All because my skin graded her perfect little world. This was war and I fight smart. I dug deeper. Phone records tied her to a gas by that afternoon at the Exxon off Route 9. Neighbors unloaded her dirt. She'd find Miss Ellie's bird feeder, snarling ghetto clutter, hounded Juan's van, muttering those people don't belong. Her HOA bylaws? Bogus, unfiled with the county. She'd forged board resignations, declared herself queen, and stomped on anyone who didn't kneel, me most of all. Her cousin slipped into the station next day, jittery, twisting her hair into knots. Linda wanted your land for an HOA retreat, spa, trails, gazebos. Said a black guy like you wouldn't stick around after a fire, that you'd sell cheap and scram. She thought I'd shatter, fade into her shadow. Wrong call. That lit a fire in me hotter than the one she'd set. I thanked the girl, sent her home safe, and scribbled her words into my file. Motive. Linda's empire was smoldering. She just didn't smell the smoke yet. I didn't storm in with lights flashing. I built a case tighter than a steel trap. Arson, fraud, forgery, harassment, utility tampering, charges stacked high, each one bolted down with hard proof. The gas can, those tactical boot prints, the crystal clear footage of Linda torching my cabin. I called in favors from state pals, got her HOA charter rushed through review. It was a sham, never legally filed. Signatures cribbed from a church raffle sheet she'd nabbed last spring. She'd find folks who'd never signed up, hiding her power grab behind standards like a cheap mask. I sat with her victims over burnt coffee. Miss Ellie, fined for her trashy bird feeder. Juan, slammed for his unfit van. Folks she'd crushed because they didn't match her mold. With me, it cut deeper. My blackness was her true target. A stain she couldn't bleach out of her Pinewood fantasy. A threat to her lily-white dreamscape. Linda didn't sense the walls closing in. She got brasher. She mailed a neighborhood newsletter claiming I was under investigation for hostile conduct, plastering a blurry photo of me grabbing coffee at the gas station. Captioned, "Threat to Harmony." She staged a mandatory HOA meeting, shoving a petition to oust me as sheriff, signs flapping in the breeze. HOA over law, scrawled in bold. Then she overreached. My cams caught her creeping through the cabin's ashes with a shady consultant, measuring tapes stretched out, appraising the ruins she'd made like some twisted real estate mogul. I rolled up in uniform, badge catching the sun. "Linda, you're trespassing." She flashed a toothy grin. "It's HOA property now, community insurance claim in progress." I stepped closer, voice low. "You're done here." Her consultant muttered something and bolted to his truck. She blinked, still smug, unshaken. Next morning, I filed the warrant myself: arson, vandalism, false claims, a rap sheet longer than her Lexus. Judge signed it by noon, ink still wet. I rallied her victims. Miss Ellie with a lawn chair and a gleam in her eye, Juan with a thermos and a grin, a dozen others itching for justice. We hit her McMansion mid-HOA meeting. folding tables groaning with clipboards, banners snapping in the wind, her mid-tirade about upholding values. "Linda Grayson," I called, voice steady as stone. "You're under arrest." I read the charges, every single one. Slow and sharp, letting them sink in. Her face flipped fast. Smug, confused, furious, then pale as milk. "You can't do this. I'm president," she shrieked, clutching her clipboard like a lifeline. "Of a fake empire," I said, cuffs snapping shut. Neighbors erupted. Miss Ellie raised her thermos like a trophy, whooping loud. One cranked "Sweet Virginia" on his truck stereo, bass thumping. Linda flailed, crashed into her prized roses, screaming about lawsuits and civil rights. Didn't help her one bit. Court was a bloodbath. She spun wild lies, called the fire an accident, the cabin a derelict eyesore she'd improved by torching. Then the footage hit the screen. Linda in camo, dumping gas, lighting the rag with manic glee, flames mirrored in her grin. The room went graveyard quiet. Her greasy lawyer in a cheap suit clammed up mid-sentence, papers slipping from his hands. Judge didn't blink. 5 years probation, community service, $900,000 restitution. Cash she didn't have. Insurance laughed off her arson claim. Her savings, car, house, all up for grabs. I filed a civil suit, dragging every fake fine, every forged signature into the open. The county gutted her HOA, every rule, every lien wiped clean. Her McMansion hit the market, unsold, a price-reduced sign sagging out front like a white flag. She lit the match, but I burned her empire to the ground. I didn't gloat. I watched, waited, let the law do the heavy lifting. She'd bet I'd fold, thought a black man with a badge wouldn't bite back. Her fatal misstep. The community exhaled, unshackled from her grip. Me? I was just gearing up for the rebuild. A week after the verdict, Pinewood threw a cookout like a prison break bash. Grills smoked with ribs and burgers, collards bubbled, kids chased fireflies with sticky fingers. No clipboards, no fines, just laughter ringing through the hills. Miss Ellie shuffled over, handed me a plate, pulled pork, cornbread, her killer potato salad. "We shook off a curse, Marcus," she said, eyes twinkling. One clapped my back. First good sleep in years. I nodded, savoring the taste of freedom. Word is Linda's Lexus got towed last week, rusting in some lot. Her reign was ash. The neighborhood lived again. Linda's fate, court stuck her on county cleanup, neon vest, trash picker, scrubbing picnic tables in the park she tried to steal. I drove by once, saw her power washing a sidewalk, hair matted, teens filming and jeering. "Ain't you the lady who torched that black guy's house?" one yelled. She shrank, but the lens caught her cringe. I almost felt sorry, almost. She still scribbles appeals. Mails sob stories claiming she's framed, a martyr. No dice. Every judge has the footage, her in camo, burning my legacy. Her name's mud, unsalvageable even by her dead HOA rag. I turned to rebuilding. The cabin wouldn't mirror Pop's hands. Some losses don't rebuild, but I made it mine. Fireproof siding, steel beams, solar panels purring on the roof. I dug a stone fire pit out front, laid a cedar porch, and carved a sign in Pop's rugged style. Jackson Retreat, Linda-proof since 2025. Burned it in with a torch, grinning as the letters smoked. Pops would have laughed. Wildflowers stormed the old foundation, yellow and purple riots, and I bolted a new bench for him into the earth, stained dark, sealed tight. Ain't nobody moving that. Folks ask if I regret not cuffing her that first day, when she marched up with her fake rules, clipboard flapping like a scepter. Maybe I could have hit her with trespassing, ended it quick. But I'm glad I waited. It wasn't just her. It was every Karen like her, thinking they can bully folks, especially a black man who won't break. She saw my skin, my land, and bet I'd buckle. Instead, I showed her, and the world, you don't cross a sheriff who knows the law better than you fake it. Waiting turned it epic. Her empires fall loud, public, carved in court files and viral clips. Now I'm at the cabin more. Fixing gutters, hunting deer in fall, sipping coffee on the deck as fog weaves through the pines like smoke that heals, not harms. Newcomers ask about Pinewood's old HOA tyrant. I point to the hills, grin, and say, she picked the wrong black man to mess with. Then I pour them a mug. No fees, no forms, just neighbors. She thought my skin made me weak, but it forged me unbreakable. Peace is my prize now. Linda lost her throne, her house, her grip. I got a story, a retreat no Karen can touch, and a county that knows justice ain't blind. It's mine. The lesson learned. So what's the big takeaway from this wild ride? It's simple but powerful. You don't have to swing back at every punch. Sometimes, patience and smarts hit harder than fists. Linda thought she could bulldoze me because of who I am, but I turned her own game against her, step by step until she had nowhere left to run. The lesson here is that real strength isn't about shouting loudest. It's about standing firm, knowing your worth, and letting justice do the talking. Whether it's a Karen or any bully in your life, don't let them shake you. Build your case, hold your ground, and watch them fall. The meaningful message. This story's got a deeper heartbeat, y'all. It's about fighting for what's yours. Your home, your roots, your dignity. Especially when someone's trying to rip it away because they don't think you belong. Linda didn't just want my cabin gone. She wanted me gone. A black man daring to own something she couldn't control. But here's the message. No one gets to define your place in this world but you. It's a shout out to anyone who's ever been underestimated or pushed aside. Your value isn't up for debate, and your fight matters. This isn't just my win. It's a win for every underdog who refuses to break. Personal perspective. From where I'm standing, this whole mess with Linda taught me something I'll carry forever. People like her thrive on fear, but they crumble under truth. I could have lost my cool that first day she strutted up with her clipboard, but waiting, watching her dig her own hole, felt sweeter than any quick payback. As a black man in a world that sometimes wants me to shrink, I've learned you don't always get justice handed to you. You've got to carve it out yourself. Linda underestimated me, and that was her downfall. My take? Never let anyone's small mind dim your big fight. That cabin's still mine, and so's my peace. Loved this tale of triumph over a HOA tyrant? Then you've got to stick around for more. Hit that subscribe button for Story Precious right now. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next wild ride. We're dropping the freshest, juiciest stories every week, packed with drama, laughs, and lessons you'll carry with you. Click that bell so you're the first to catch every new video. Whether it's revenge, redemption, or just some good OL chaos, Story Precious has got you covered. Like this video too. It's a small tap that means a ton to me, and join the crew. Let's keep the stories rolling.